A lot of YouTube videos say things like, it's time to retire. Do it now before you regret it. Now's the time to retire. Whether you're in your 50s or 60s, it's almost, well, it's almost urgent. That's what their headlines say. I'm not so sure I agree with this approach about retirement. They're trying to sell you the idea that it's better as soon as possible to fully retire, to get out of that rat race and that drudgery of getting up every morning and going to work, to a job you probably don't like that much. And retirement would be an answer to that. And everything after retirement would be, well, bliss. Your days would be filled with all the things that you want to do and not those things that your employer wants you to do. So sure, they do have an argument. Life is short. Life goes by very fast, and there is this fear that as we get older, and maybe if we put off retirement to closer to the end, we're going to have regrets. And people say, you're going to regret it. You're going to regret getting to that point where, yeah, that you are so close and you could have had all these days where you could have done something better than get up and go to work. But I don't think it's as simple as that. I think retirement, full-on retirement, can bring with it a lot of issues and problems that perhaps we don't foresee ahead of time. In fact, regrets are something I think that is probably, I guess, endemic, is that the word, to our nature. I think some people are always going to have regrets. And I think one of my fears is that getting to old age and regretting that I spent all of my life regretting. Hi, my name is Kevin. Welcome to Silver Hill. And in this video, I'm going to look at, I believe, 4 different things that we should consider before we go into full retirement. And then after that, I am going to discuss very briefly possible solution to your issue. So I think it's a personal choice. I think that's what it comes down to. And I think whatever a person chooses, it all depends on your situation. Your situation is different than my situation, and we're all different. And we live in different parts of the world. We speak different languages. We have different pensions. There's so much to consider. And so what I'm about to say is to be taken with the understanding that you know that your situation is probably more different than someone else's and mine too. But there should be some general truths here to consider. Once you retire, you could face one is the loneliest number. Loneliness. Because for decades and decades, you've been used to getting up every morning, your feet hitting the floor, or whichever time you go to work, and you had a purpose, you had a place to be, and you had people most likely to be around. Probably half a dozen people, maybe only one, but you did see those people on a daily basis, weekly basis at least, and you got to interact with them and their lives, what's going on. And as I've discussed in another video, sure, work friends aren't necessarily real friends. They're different, and they tend to disappear after retirement, but they're there for you right now in the moment. And you can get interested in their lives. You can feel a part of everything. And not only that, if you work in a job where you get to meet new people all the time, or say you're in retail, that's not always fun. I know I did that for a while. And but you still have this sense of your mind isn't left to feed on its own loneliness. So we have to remember that sometimes the idea of retirement may sound very good, and I believe probably the first 2 or 3 days, or maybe weeks or months, it could be a bit euphoric. Wow, I don't have to do that anymore. I don't have to be here anymore on a certain time and a certain day and show up, all shaven and whatever, clean. We'll keep those things going. But soon, all that quiet time could turn into basically deafening silence. So I would say just be wary of that. The fact that if you cut work cold turkey, you could be facing a time of great loneliness, which could bring on anxiety and depression and a whole host of other things that you never had to deal with when you were in the workaday world. You may also sense, number two, a sense of purpose being lost. You may find that before, when you got up, you knew what you were going to be doing and you knew what the goal is for the day, or you were given a purpose or a goal. And now you may find that that sense of purpose is no longer there when you get up because you haven't replaced it with something new, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. So what seemed like such a good thing, having coffees and scrolling Facebook, as the months go by, maybe even just doing the yard work, maybe even traveling, there could be something come over you, for certain individuals at least. Others may just go, woohoo, it's time, this is great. And it could depend on your financial means as well. But you could lose a sense of purpose. And for some, that could be quite devastating. Another thing, when you lose a sense of purpose, you also lose, number three, perhaps a sense of self-esteem. So with having no purpose and going out and about in the community, going to the local hardware store, the grocery store, whatever, you may find that all of a sudden you sense that other people are looking at you as if you just don't really fit anymore. You don't really have anything of value to give. And therefore you may start to, and you shouldn't, so, we shouldn't fall prey to this, but we do often, that we fall prey to the idea that what others think of us is important. So I don't mean building your self-esteem up basically on what you think other people are thinking of you, but basically just the idea that you don't walk among your peers anymore with a sense of esteem that this is my job, I have a purpose in life, I have a place, therefore I do derive, and we do derive some sense from our work. In fact, we do know that it's healthy for us to work, to produce, to fix, to create, to help others, and to be a part of society will give us a natural self-esteem, which we may lose if we go into full retirement. Another thing that may be a part of a problem too is just staying at home. If we don't get out for walks and we stay home and we don't, we say, oh, it's a rainy day, I'm not going anywhere, I'm just going to have some coffee, and pretty soon this could actually give us a sense of or a loss of physical well-being as well. So as our sense of self-esteem goes down, we could also be losing this the physicality element of our lives, because before we had to get up, we had to go somewhere, we had to move, we had to be there, and maybe we had to stand on our feet for 7 hours. But you know what? Sitting home on your ass for 7 hours isn't good for you either. So if we go directly into retirement, this could also be a result of that. Also, I find that some aspect of being retired can lead you into number 5, a sense of being stuck with just what we would call the menial chores, things that were important, things that are important around the house. I mean, you may be a cleaner yourself for your full-time career, and I thank you for that, because we need cleaners and we need people that do these so-called menial jobs, whether it's shoveling, running snow blowers, mowing the lawns and all that sort of thing. But for you, and doing that for your home, it may seem like you're getting stuck, and the main thing you do first thing in the morning is the dishes, sweep the floor, mop the floor, and then your days seem to become filled with just what we would call menial tasks. And that may not be healthy for your mind as well. So I have a solution for all this, and it may not work for everyone. And as I've said before, um, these are just my ideas. These aren't professional. I'm not a professional, but it's kind of the way I see the world. I think I've always seen the world as a bit of do things through attrition, meet things in the middle, so to speak. When you have a situation, kind of go halfway. An example of that is one time I thought I was drinking way far too much soda pop cola, and especially when I was younger. And I got to the point, this really isn't healthy for me. So what I did was I got some clear soda water. Yes, I know there's plastics, microplastics in this bottles. Carbonated water may not be good for your intestines. There's all these other issues, but my goal was to eliminate drinking pop on a regular basis. So what I did was I'd go half and half, my cola and then my soda water, or, the fizzy water, carbonated water. And so over time, and it wasn't too long, I was able to find that actually, a full cup, you probably found this yourself if you ever tried this, a full cup of pop seemed far too sweet. So then over time, I started just drinking like just the clear soda water mostly. There's still times we go out to eat or something and I will treat myself to a cola, but that's kind of the way I see things. So this is kind of introduces my way of thinking as for retirement. I think you could approach retirement from the attitude of being semi-retired. So being semi-retired means perhaps your employer would allow you to cut your hours in half. Maybe you could go to work 1 or 2 days a week. This keeps you in the flow of things. Now, all this depends on your pensions, your bonds, all these things that you may have or may not have. And maybe the fact that you need to keep working is semi-retirement will be good too for you. So, but you'd have to check that with your professionals or do your own math. So what I'm proposing is semi-retirement. And semi-retirement, I think, has the benefits it does for me, where I'm still doing the hustle. I'm still trying to find work. I'm still coming across people in my life as I do these things. And it also arranges, if you're in an official job and not self-employed like myself pretty much, you could probably job share with someone else, and that gives that person some work as well. Now, this is as long as your worker, I guess, is amenable to those sort of things, your employer, and you might be able to work something out like that. And you'll also be receiving a paycheck every so often. And yes, I know you could live off your savings and that, but that does give you a sense of security that perhaps you are still earning, and it gives maybe a little bit of self-esteem. I know we've been programmed our whole lives that to go to work is to be able to provide for others and provide for yourself. So semi-retirement is halfway. Semi-retirement is knowing you're moving into full-time retirement, but you're also doing it in a gradual sense. And some may say, well, you should have got out when you were 55, like the commercial used to say, Freedom 55. And for some of us, we can't do that. And for some of it could lead to depression, loneliness, lack of purpose, being stuck in these different jobs and stuff, menial jobs. But you'll still be out. You'll still be hustling a bit. If you're semi-retired, you'll still make some social interactions and contact. And most of all, I would say, try not to regret your choice. I don't think there is any perfect choice in life. And I think we only do the best we can do. And at the end of the day, it's no sense dying when we're all done, when that day finally comes, it's no sense to have a sense of regret about things that we really can't change anymore. I think that's all I have to say for you today. I don't see anything else here in my notes, but yeah, those are my thoughts about semi-retirement. I think it can be a very good option for others, and like I said, job sharing could even help someone who is younger. You may even get to mentor. That wasn't even in my notes, but you may get to do a little bit of mentoring and teaching and passing down your knowledge to someone that is younger. Okay, this is Kevin Cameron, and my channel is Silver Hill, and right now I'm just coming to you from my art studio. I'm usually outside, and I just want to say you guys have a great day, and we'll see you in the next one. And I think I'll have a link up here to another one. We'll just check it out. All right. See you guys. Take care. Bye.